December 5th, 2025, a date which will live in infamy. In what may turn out to be the gravest blow in traditional cinema and a death blow to physical media and film preservation, Netflix has officially won the bidding war for Warner Brothers Discovery, and according to multiple sources, Netflix has agreed to pay roughly $72 billion for Warner Brothers Studios, TV, film, production assets, and streaming business. This includes their entire back catalog. So let me be 100% blunt right here. If this deal goes through, right now it's just basically subject to government oversight. So all signs point to yes. Fingers crossed that they're wrong. This isn't just a shake up and, I don't go to theaters that much anyway. This is a hammer blow to movies and movie-going experience and physical media and movie ownership and everything as you knew it. Everything that was holding up real cinema, physical media, artistic integrity and variety, and honestly, the hope for quality filmmaking to return again is on the chopping block here, and it is scary. So what happened? After a fierce auction with contenders like Paramount, Skydance, and Comcast, Universal, and Netflix, it looks like Netflix has emerged the winner. Reportedly a bid of like $28 per share, which is just above Paramount's cash bid. But this is all kind of seedy and underneath here, because if you do it with shares and stocks and you trade some of that, then you avoid taxes and all this kind of stuff, where Paramount was just coming in old school. Here's the money, we buy it. And we're going to get to why that would have been a much better option, though I really didn't care for any of these options. The deal reportedly includes the studios and film and television assets and the streaming unit, effectively giving Netflix control over some of Hollywood's biggest and most legendary franchises and brand names, from classic movies to blockbusters. You're talking about DC Universe. You're talking about Harry Potter, Friends, the It franchise, countless horror films. You can't even imagine how much this gives Netflix the sole ownership and sole control over if this happens. So Netflix is so sure this is going to happen, they've even offered Warner Brothers a breakup fee of around $6 billion. So if this deal doesn't go through, Warner Brothers walks off with $6 billion just for the heck of it. So from Netflix perspective, they're saying combining Warner Brothers content with Netflix's library promises cost savings and synergy, but I'm going to tell you that is a rosy, nonsensical spin on this thing, because what isn't rosy is the things that matter to the free market, number one, but to movie lovers and film workers and physical media fans and people who want ownership and uncensored and unaltered versions of their films and artistic integrity and cinematic culture. If you give a damn about any of those things, they will die with this merger right here. And that's why it's a nightmare for those people. You know, I always say that once the money men take over and that's all they care about, art is going to die, whispering, pushed into silence. And this deal literally hands the cinematic history and future of Hollywood over to Netflix, streaming lock, stock, and barrel with the keys, and it is catastrophic. We already know that the theatrical model has been mismanaged to death thanks to streaming, and it was on life support thanks to streaming. The same with physical media, because everybody's in such a hurry to get to streaming and produce content rather than good artistic films. If something does get a theatrical release, it's a week or two, and then they throw it out on streaming, and it's killing the theaters. And some people say, well, I don't go to theaters that much anyway, or I don't buy physical media that much anyway. You are missing the point and the trickle down problems with that causes, because if you take away the theater, you've killed tons of businesses across this country, thousands of businesses, and beyond the theater, you've unemployed people, the people all the way down to the people who supply the theaters with concessions and things like that. Those people, their businesses is lost, their jobs are lost. It's a hit to the economy. On top of that, physical media production down to boutiques and stuff like that can't get films, they can't survive, they can't license them, they can't put them out to you. You can't own them on physical media anymore. You'll own nothing and like it is what they're going on here. And meanwhile, all these people, not just the Hollywood A-listers and stuff like that, are getting put out of business. And not just some faceless chain of theaters, it's everyone connected to it along the way, because the head of Netflix, the CEO, who is a former content store clerk, Ted Sarandos, he's the man buying Warner Brothers, and he has publicly declared many times that he feels the traditional cinema experience is outdated and it's something that should go by the wayside, and that he believes physical media is nothing but clutter. Like, that is his perspective on theaters and theater going and physical media. It's outdated and should go away, and it's just clutter. That's what it means to him. This is the guy who doesn't, if the guy doesn't believe in theaters or physical media, why would he bother to all of a sudden keep them alive? A studio under his control is likely to prioritize just getting it to streaming, because just like we have a harder time getting stuff from Disney because they want to keep everything proprietary for their streaming, to build their streaming service, he can do that with Warner Brothers' entire catalog, past, present, and future. Lock it up, have a monopoly. You will own nothing and like it. You can't get anything. They can censor things. They can alter things. All that stuff, dump it on streaming. No theatrical. The movie-going experience is gone. And you just, I hear people who say, oh, I don't go to the theater that much anyway, or I don't buy physical media. You are missing the gravity of the situation. And that ownership, see all this behind me right here? This isn't just clutter. This is preserving film for the future, is preserving film in a physical form, a piece of art that can't be changed from its original, that is in its best quality, that's preserved the way it's supposed to be, and I can watch it anytime. He's going to get rid of that. I mean, people say, oh, well, we got The Irishman, or we get a Guillermo del Toro movie every now and then. That's it. That's because those filmmakers had those deals going in. That's not going to happen. And citing 2 or 3 or 4 things out of thousands and thousands doesn't make your point. Physical media, discs, Blu-rays, 4Ks, collector's editions already struggle in a streaming first world, though they've been fighting their way back. As streaming prices rise, they force more ads upon you, they alter content, they remove content for tax purposes and all that. So physical media has been fighting its way back, and now it just is going to be knocked down again. But I want you to just for a second imagine a future where the richest, most powerful studio in the world doesn't just shrug its shoulders at physical media releases. They see them as clutter, unimportant, old, and as a direct competition to their streaming model, so they are not part of the plan at all. Owning the master rights, licensing, legacy content vaults, all managed by a company whose public disdain for physical media and theaters has been clear and reiterated again and again. You want to keep those collector's editions, director's cuts, uncut original versions, all that stuff, uncensored, unaltered the way it was supposed to be. Good luck. When content becomes just another asset in a streaming portfolio, which is what is happening here, control lies with a single monolithic gatekeeper that controls everything. They can literally rewrite the past and the future of film, and we do not want that. This is the worst case scenario, at least with Paramount. And some people have gotten politics mixed up with Paramount. Listen, everybody knows each other. I don't care about politics. What I care about, and I really am not in favor of any of these, but what I care about with Paramount is they wanted to really revive, and they stated they wanted to revive and reinvest in the theater experience and the physical media experience. And they have been putting their money where their mouth is, putting films out in theaters, some of the biggest films, and releasing more and more stuff on 4K, restoring it, adding things to it. They have been doing that, and they wanted to continue to resurge that for the economy, for the artistic integrity, all of that stuff, for the preservation of cinema. In much the same way, had Comcast Universal, they've invested in those things. That is tied to the Universal Studios parks. They have Warner Brothers IPs in their parks. Everything is built on cinema and film history. They have partnered with Warner Brothers to make Groove, which is a site dedicated to making physical media available to sell to everyone. And they have really invested into that. So both of these companies wanted to make all those things come back again, and we've discarded that for a company that doesn't want any of those things. And that is really, really bad. And filmmaking quality, variety, and creativity and non-censorship is at serious risk here. So filmmaking quality, variety, artistic integrity, lack of censorship, all that stuff is at risk here. The whole creative process, the whole filmmaking, the film going, the film viewing process is at risk here, because with consolidation and efficiency, it's going to drive like cost savings and prioritization of scale over the craft, over the art. So that's why you see Netflix, even if a show is good, they cancel it because it's a cost to benefit analysis. They don't care about anything. They just want to throw more and more content at you. This deal is going to give them absolute control to do this, of everything: output, release schedules, censorship standards, editing and re-editing, version control of movies, all of that stuff, who gets films released and how they get them released. They will control all of that. So if Netflix wants to sanitize and recut and clean up older or newer films to avoid controversy, or to tailor them to the algorithm for longer durations of watches, or to optimize for streaming metrics, there will be nothing to stop them, and they can do it to a catalog that's exponentially bigger than anything they have ever had before. You have to understand that streaming and getting content out, just throwing content to catch the most subscriptions possible, is all they care about. Even if they only get it for a couple of months and then they find someone new to trade that off, they don't care about the filmmaking process, the history of film, you owning the film, you having the film in the best quality possible. They don't care about the filmmaker's artistic vision and grainy atmospheres and cinematic lighting or pacing or subtlety. They care about completion rates, data, trending, and churn. That's all they care about. And it's one thing when they had it with what they controlled. Now they're going to have access to one of the biggest and most legendary libraries in the history of Hollywood, going back to huge classics, to blockbusters. It is really bad. I am telling you, if you combine all that With Netflix's global reach and subscriber base, and now that content vault of Warner Brothers film and TV and IPs and legacy, you've got a supremely dominant single entity. And that is where we have a little bit of hope, because critics and lawmakers have already raised antitrust concerns. And Netflix isn't even, look, they're not even hiding it, y'all. Already, the CEO has said he's not promising theatrical windows. He's not even giving that out there to kind of like soften the blow. He will not, he was asked point blank, and he will not even commit to allowing the brand name of HBO to continue to exist. That is a legacy brand name that will just be discarded like nothing. And once all that happens, once theaters die, once physical media is gone, and we have broken movie chains, shuttered multiplexes, lost concession vendors, lost jobs, lost access to physical media and film preservation, everything downstream suffers. It's not just, oh, I don't go to the movies anyway. You have to get that out of your head. And here's where the story gets even uglier. The expected political pushback has now escalated into a full-blown lobbying war, and it's not one side of political spectrum or another. So you go ahead and dump your this or that, or this person or that person, or I don't like this political party or that political party. This time, it is not just competitors or, armchair analysts or YouTubers or whatever raising concerns. It's politicians on both sides of the aisle and industry veterans and A-list filmmakers themselves. This kind of started with Republican lawmaker David Issa, I think is how you say his name. He wrote a letter to Congress, and I'll try to put it up here. He says, as you are aware, Netflix is already the dominant streaming platform in the United States, and permitting it to absorb a major competitor raises antitrust concerns that could result in harm to customers. With more than 300 million global subscribers and a vast content library, Netflix currently wields unequaled market power. Adding both HBO Max subscribers and Warner Brothers premier content rights would further enhance this position, reportedly pushing the combined entity above 30% share of the streaming market, a threshold traditionally viewed as presumptively problematic under antitrust law. A further concern is that the consolidation would also diminish incentives to produce new content and major theatrical releases, evidenced by Netflix's own statements dismissing movie theaters as outdated, which could undermine opportunities for a full range of industry professionals, both in front of and behind the camera. But here's the thing. Politicians are not the only one sounding alarm. So this isn't a right or left issue. Dump all of your biases one way or the other. Politicians aren't the only ones sounding the alarm on this. A group of top tier, this was reported by Variety, a group of top tier film producers and A-list filmmakers quietly sent a letter to members of both political parties, urging them, vehemently begging them to oppose this deal, or at the very least demand the highest level of scrutiny. The letter warns that merging the top content creator and the largest streaming distributor into a noose around the market, the theatrical marketplace, is what will happen. The letter went on to urge them to look at this and really to stop it. They're pleading for them to stop this from happening, because it will be the death of Hollywood and cinema and film and physical media and everything you know and love. And this is how much you can see the power being consolidated. The letter was left unsigned despite hundreds of these people signing it. And that tells you everything you need to know, because these filmmakers already feared retaliation from Netflix. Just think about that. Hollywood royalty is now afraid of one company becoming so powerful it could end their careers. They are sending in droves an unsigned letter to both political parties begging for this not to happen. I mean, they're also worried that they could just remove their films, their legacy films, their past films with a keystroke and take a tax cut on it. They fear what Netflix can do once it controls not just distribution, but production, IP libraries, and theatrical windows. This is not paranoia. This is realism. And when some of the biggest names in filmmaking are whispering, "This is dangerous, we got to stop this," behind closed doors, you should listen. But you have to remember, legal fights take time. Netflix has already said they're willing to fight this. They think they have so much power, and they want to consolidate even more power and do what they want to. This will be the end of film as you know it. And here's the cold hard truth. If you like going to the cinema, if you like seeing films on the big screen with crowds, hearing the roar, experiencing movies as they were intended in an immersive scale, this deal is a death nail to your future. The collective movie-going experience could become an endangered species more than it even is. If you care about physical media, preserving original versions and owning discs, special features, artful packaging, you should expect right now way fewer releases, less care given, and a slow atrophy of the collector's medium. If you listen, this puts into jeopardy every kind of deal out there. Warner Brothers famously has a deal with Arrow Video, a huge boutique. Once that deal is over, kiss it goodbye. Netflix is not going to let that out of their house, out of their hands. They're going to keep it proprietary on streaming. So it could downstream kill boutiques. It could kill all these people that preserve and put all this love and everything into films. Kiss it goodbye. Absolutely gone. So Arrow Video, they could go by the wayside because they put so much into this deal. Then they will be fighting for scraps. It's going to reduce down everything that boutiques have at their disposal to go out and reach for licenses to release content on. So if you value this at all, you have to really understand that you should be opposed to this and hope that it gets stopped. Because if you value risks and bold filmmaking and variety and uncensored filmmaking, you will lose it in this scenario. And under a streaming monolith that's chasing algorithms and margins, art isn't art, film isn't film, it's none of that stuff. It is nothing but a data point and content. That's all it is. And if you worry about media consolidation, monopoly control, and cultural cost of one entity owning huge swaths of entertainment, this is what it will look like. In short, this is not just a corporate merger. This might be the moment cinema as we knew it died. So they say this storm is coming and there's nothing we can do, so buckle up. Hopefully the government steps in and stops this, because if the deal goes through, it won't just be business at stake. It'll be the last dying gasp of cinema, physical media, creative freedom, the slow fade of everything movie lovers once fought to preserve. If you like going to movies, Netflix doesn't. If you like buying physical media discs, 4Ks, preserving those films, Netflix doesn't. If you care about film preservation, Netflix doesn't. If you care about the best quality of the film, seeing it the way it was supposed to be seen, Netflix doesn't. If you want artistic risks and all that, Netflix would rather analyze your viewing habits and then bankroll filmmaking that is disposable content. Once the theaters collapse, they do not come back. Once physical media dies, and boutiques die for lack of films to get and license and restore, films just become a rented memory in our mind. And once a big monolithic corporation controls the versions, the edits, the availability, and the artistic fate of the movies we love, the game is over. And then we're the ones left staring at a blinking screen as another beloved film gets shoved into streaming abyss and edited for broadest appeal and stripped of its original soul. Look, I don't want to be cynical. I fight against that every day on this channel. But sometimes the things I warn everyone against and plead with people to see coming end up smacking us in the face with an unwanted reality. If we don't change course back to some of the good things we had before, if we don't get them to come in and stop this deal, if we don't stop the loss of our shared pop culture and artistic soul, we will lose way more than you have ever imagined. And that, friends, is the kind of realism you do not want to be ready for. If this deal goes through, it will be the loss of the very soul of film culture. Ownership, preservation, creativity, theatrical tradition, history, all handed to some corporate giant that already believes movie theaters, old Hollywood, physical media are nothing but relics, outdated, and pointless clutter. Cinema isn't going to die loudly if this goes through. It will die quietly in an updated terms of service pop-up. And unless this deal is stopped, we may be about to watch it die in real time. And that's what I got for you this time. And I hope you enjoyed it. I can't even say that this time. I hope you take the warning, and I hope this gets stopped. But I'll see you later. Bye-bye. I know.